Hey guys, welcome to another Bitcoin Builder video, and in this video I want to do a follow-up to Vesper. And I did the first video about 2 weeks ago, and they've since been attracting a substantial amount of attention and capital, and so I wanted to do just a brief follow-up to bring up a few more points that I didn't mention. I'm not going to cover anything I covered in the last video. And of course, before I get into that, I will, as usual, state that all of this is just my personal opinion, and none of this is financial advice. You need to make your own decisions on this stuff. But I'll start this out with a bold statement, and this is not a prediction or even a speculation. This is just what I think is a possibility. And that is that I see Vesper as having the potential to become the Coinbase equivalent in the world of DeFi. Now, if you stop and think about it, somebody is going to fill that role. Right now, no one has done it. There's a million different DeFi projects out there. A lot of them are similar, and none of them have done what Coinbase has done for cryptocurrencies. And one of the reasons that I'm looking at it from this angle goes back to my first experience with Bitcoin. When I first was introduced to or saw Bitcoin, it was pretty early, and I don't know the exact year. It could have been anywhere from 2010 to 2012. Somewhere in that time frame, back in the middle of my Forex days when I was trading the Forex markets pretty heavily, I would go into different forums and hang out and see what was going on and all that good stuff. And I would hear occasionally people talking about Bitcoin, and it did get my interest. And so I started looking into it and was quickly lost at the complexity of everything. I mean, back then it was a complex topic. Like, how do I get it? Where do I get it? Well, you have to download the entire code to your computer, and that's going to take you multiple days and 1,000 gigaflops of data, and you got to get a wallet. And I'm thinking to myself, like, a wallet like the one I carry in my back pocket, but how does that work for a digital coin? Like, it didn't even make sense to me. And so, like what a lot of people did and what a lot of people do when confronted with these types of situations, is I said, no, the hell with it. I don't have time for this. I'm too busy trading Forex. I can see the financial potential there. I couldn't see the financial potential for Bitcoin, let alone have the patience to try to navigate through figuring out how to acquire some. And fast forward to 2016, and I take another look, and there's Coinbase, making it extremely easy for me to go in and buy some Bitcoin, which is exactly what I did. And because of Coinbase, millions of people have gotten into cryptocurrency who may otherwise not have done it, just because of the complexity of it all. I mean, if you stop and think about it, and you try to think about, well, where would I buy Bitcoin if Coinbase didn't exist? A good majority of people out there would have no idea. They would have no idea where to do that. And if you did give them some options, and they went to visit those websites, they would just be like, this is too complicated. I'm not going to do it. So when we look at Coinbase, I look at it as this is a company that brought cryptocurrency to the masses. It made it available to the masses. It made it simple, and it added a layer of trust that didn't exist before. And Vesper, I think, is doing the same thing in the world of DeFi. When we look at the DeFi situation and how it has existed up until now, we see a highly complex set of operations that have been going on that only a handful of people who really know their shit can participate in. But Vesper looks like their primary goal is to fix that. And I like this podcast over here from the Defiant. And if we listen to this short clip, I think it sums up exactly what we're talking about here.
This year, the DeFi experience, we had been not only yield farming, privately playing around with some of these decentralized financial products, but running into some of the pain points in terms of hacks, lack of professionalism, lack of trust in some of these instruments. A lot of them are fly-by-night. They're terms that should give any retail user pause, like rug pull, where it's kind of like an exit scam where the founders run away with millions in deposited assets. And just looked at all that and saw that, yes, there was a lot of innovation, but there was also kind of a lack of professionalism. And so we said, well, we've been doing this for a number of years with Metronome. And so let's take that experience and take what we've learned over 2020 with the so-called food festival, the pickles and the sushis and the wasabis and this, that, and the other. And we bake that into Vesper, which is a platform or a suite for DeFi products. The first line of products that we're releasing is a pretty familiar deposit your crypto and earn yield type of pattern. We call them holding pools for crypto holders. You want to trust that if you put your crypto in a Vesper holding pool, it's going to be there a year, 5 years, 10 years from now, continuing to earn passive income. And there's been definitely a lot of interest from kind of the crypto OGs, the Bitcoiners, the Ethereum crowd. They want something that they can trust, that is not that kind of higher risk DeFi food festival. And they want to hold their ETH, their Bitcoin, etc. But they want to grow it too. They don't just want capital to be at rest. And so that first touch of that product was really aimed at those experts. But and this is what led to Vesper. We were thinking to ourselves that this experience just needs to level up. It needs to be easy for retail users, for institutional users, and not just the long-haired crypto folks that we all know and love. And so we decided to make it official and kicked off Vesper about 6 months ago in terms of engineering based on work I did about 12 months ago.
And so we can hear there the vision for what they want to do with Vesper, and the market is definitely responding positively. If we look at DeFi Pulse, they are almost in the top 10 by total value locked, having attracted over $1.4 billion in locked assets in a month and a half. They've consistently been one of the fastest growing DeFi projects out there. And I think the reason for that is for those reasons that I just mentioned. When we look at how complex some of this DeFi yield farming actually is, and we look at, for example, one of the Vesper strategies that they use here on this VETH pool, we get an idea of just how ridiculous this is. In this strategy that they use for the VETH pool, we can see that what they do is they take your ETH, it's deposited as collateral to MakerDAO, and then that collateral is used to take out a DAI loan. Then DAI is sent to Aave, where it collects DAI yield. The yield's used to pay the loan fees and purchase more ETH to deposit for additional collateral. I mean, are you serious? Who is going to do all that stuff? And I can tell you, a lot of people are doing that, but it's a small niche group of people. There's a much, much larger group of people who would just prefer to come to a place like this where it's nice and clean and professional and say, great, I've got some ETH. I'm going to click this. Oh, I see there's over $500 million in deposits already. That's great. I feel more comfortable now putting my money in. They come down here. They say, this is conservative. That's great. I can hold my ETH and I can speculate on the price of Vesper at the same time. They put in how much ETH they want. They hit deposit and they're done. And all of that other stuff happens behind the scenes. And that is why I think they're growing so fast. And that is why I think they're going to accelerate and only start to grow even faster. And that is why I think that they are going to become the Coinbase equivalent for DeFi. Unless somebody else comes along and bumps them off and builds a better mousetrap. I mean, this could happen. But right now, it looks like they're the only one doing this, so that gives them the advantage of being first to market. If you've ever read the book Positioning by Al Ries or Jack Trout, then you understand the importance of that, or their other book, The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. When you understand how powerful it is to not just have a product that's good and then market it, but be able to position that product properly and design it so that it appeals to the masses. That gives you such a huge edge over all your competition, and that's what I think they're doing here. They're first to the market with this idea. Coinbase was the first to the market in making crypto accessible to the layman and making it easy for them to get started in buying Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that good stuff. I mean, this is so ridiculously easy. My 92-year-old grandma could get involved in DeFi through Vesper, right? We could teach a monkey how to do this. All this other stuff, all these other steps that are involved, I'm not so sure about that. The other thing is that when we look at institutional money, where does institutional money go when they want to go ahead and buy their Bitcoin? The answer is they go to Coinbase. Well, why do that? Why not just come over here to Trade Ogre and buy your Bitcoin? Why doesn't Elon Musk just come to Trade Ogre? You can buy Bitcoin on Trade Ogre. Now, I have nothing against Trade Ogre. I mean, I've used this exchange. Absolutely nothing wrong with them. But this is not where the institutional money is going to come to buy Bitcoin. When Michael Saylor wants to buy Bitcoin for his company and transfer his company's balance sheet to Bitcoin, he doesn't come to Trade Ogre to buy the Bitcoin. He goes to Coinbase. And in that same respect, I think that the institutional money, when they're sitting on their Bitcoin and they're all happy because it's doubling and they're making all this extra money, they're going to look at this and say, you know what? How can we use DeFi to make our Bitcoin not just sit here, but actually make more money? And that's when I think they're going to go to Vesper. I mean, where else are they going to go? I mean, I guess they could come over here to Pickle Finance, but I don't see that happening. And nothing against any of these projects that I'm pointing out here. I'm just illustrating a point. We look at what's out here now. Look at, like, how do you even do this? Can you see, like, big corporations, big institutional money coming to, a platform like this or any of the dozens of others that are out there to take advantage of yield farming and DeFi and some of the profit potentials that are in there? I don't see that happening. I can see them going to something like this. And when you look at this and you say, well, I don't know, 0.08%, that's not really that exciting. If you're holding Bitcoin right now and you want to put it into this pool, like 0.01%, like that's nothing. Like, what's the point of doing that? And the idea is that, first of all, the institutional money, they don't want 1,000% gains, because the thing that always comes along with big gains is big risk, and they don't want to do that. And for somebody with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin or billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, 0.01% or 0.08% is a substantial return. And if they can do that with taking lower risk with a more professional and trustworthy platform, that's where they're going to go. And like I said, if you're looking for options, what else exists right now besides Vesper? I've looked through the list of DeFi projects, and I don't see any other projects that are out there that can directly compare to Vesper and what they're doing. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with any of these other projects or that any of these projects don't have good profit potential. I think that there's a market for all of these. They're definitely a niche market, and we need these projects working behind the scenes. But these things are not going to be where the mainstream money goes. The institutional money is not going to go to most of these other projects. It's just not going to go in there. The average retail dollars are not going to go into most of these other projects. I just don't see it happening. What we see when we look at DeFi Pulse and all of this locked value here, this is more like, this is a niche market for most of these. You'll have some retail money in here, but for the most part, I look at like this 40 billion in total value locked. This is the money coming from the niche market. The wider market, which includes the institutional money and all the retail money, your average Joe on the street who's not going to get into all this DeFi farming crap, that's a much bigger number than 40 billion. And so here they are, having attracted over 1.4 billion. They're almost in the top 10. They're making huge strides, one of the fastest growing DeFi projects, yet they're sitting at a market cap of 161 million. That just doesn't add up. That math does not add up. So I still see Vesper as a $1 billion market cap project, and that's a conservative number in my opinion. So if I were speculating on this, I would be looking at this and say, conservatively, I think that this should be a $1 billion market cap project, just compared to some of the other projects that are out there getting money. And you know what I really like to do is I just look at something like this and I say, the market cap is 161 million. Do I think that they could double from here? Could they be a $300 million market cap project? Because everybody wants 1,000% gains and 10,000% gains, but you know what? There's nothing wrong with doubling your money. Just getting a simple 100% gain. Because if you can be confident enough that they're just going to double in price, and based on your research, you get in and that happens, well, now you're already in profit to go along for the rest of the ride up to a $1 billion market cap or $2 billion or wherever they end up. And all of this growth that they're doing with hardly any real exchanges, no major exchanges. I mean, we got Uniswap, but there's no big centralized exchanges that have picked up Vesper yet. I mean, what are they going to do when more people have access to this through their centralized exchanges that they're used to? So I continue to see huge potential with Vesper. And not only that, but I think that when the bull market finally ends for this current bull market, whenever that happens, the end of this year, another year, 6 months, whenever that happens, I think Vesper will just get another surge of growth as people look to take some of those gains that they've made and now protect them in such a way that they can also start earning some sort of a passive income on them. They don't just want them to sit there, right? You don't want your money to sit there and do nothing. You're certainly not going to stick it in your bank if you have any kind of common sense whatsoever. I mean, why put money in a bank when you could just stick it in USDC and get over 5%? Is your bank going to give you 5% on a savings account? You know, and again, when you look at the options that are out there, like what else can we do? I mean, there's other DeFi projects out there, but like you go here and it's like, what do you want me to do? Where do I go? How do I use this? Okay, launch app, I'll do that. And you're looking at this and it's like, what is all this? What do I do? How do I do this? You know, you're looking at this stuff and this is not what we call user friendly. It's nothing like this experience right here. And in the real world, this wins every single time. And again, nothing against Alpha, nothing against any of these other projects. There is a place for them. I just don't think that they're going to be filling that spot. They're not going to fill the shoes of there's going to be somebody that comes along and fills that role that is going to be the equivalent of Coinbase in the world of DeFi. They're going to be like the number one project that people go to because of the ease of use, because of the simplicity, because of the trust factor. And like I said, I see all of that with Vesper, and I don't see any of that with any of these other projects that I've looked at. So I think when the bull market finally ends, if the Vesper token has had a good run, I mean, who knows? Maybe the bull market doesn't even end for these guys. I mean, has the bull market ever ended for Coinbase? They just keep growing and growing and growing every year. It doesn't matter if the broader crypto market is in the middle of a bear market, Coinbase is still making tons of profits. And this is what I perceive could happen with Vesper and possibly quite a few other DeFi projects as well. So again, this is just my opinion. It's what I consider to be a possibility, and I will be the first to admit that it may not happen. There could be somebody else that comes along and does it, but somebody will do this. Somebody will fill that spot. At this point, my money's on Vesper, and at this point, I think that it's still a phenomenal opportunity to speculate on. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a different perspective. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you again in the next video.
This is coming. I might not be able to tell you whether or not it's going to be Uniswap or SushiSwap or PancakeSwap or some version of it or another swap that hasn't been created yet as to which will be the main protocol that will win out above all the other ones, but one of them will. And when it does, the current system that we look is going to look like it's standing in place. You're going to look like a bunch of taxi drivers in a ride-sharing world is what you're going to wind up with.